Pushkar Anand, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's a real pleasure to have you here. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
Yes, well, I'm an author, speaker, philosopher, out with my mission to uplift humanity, a human consciousness. That's 4 million people by my 50th birthday next year, and 100 million people by my mentor, teacher, Blaine Bartlett, Grandmaster B Square's 80th birthday on 9th September 2029.
Amazing. Wow, that's you know your elevator pitch quite well then. So we are
I've been
joined.
used to saying it so often to friends, family, and hosts, it just seems to come naturally.
Perfect. So tell us about your mentor who is also here with us.
Well, my mentor is a very special person. We go back a very long time, and he's made quite an impact in this world before he met me, and he continues to. And I'll let him quickly introduce himself.
Welcome, Blaine.
Well, thank you, Venus. It's a pleasure to be here. Uh, I'm not sure exactly where to go with that introduction, but thank you, Pushkar. Uh, he and I first met, I believe, about 6 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. It was post-COVID. I was doing a program with Bob Proctor. And
2015, yeah.
Okay, so 2015. So yeah, Bob and I were on the sharing the stage together doing a program, and we were live casting globally. And Pushkar happened to be in the audience, and he reached out to me and said, "Would you be willing to take me on as a client?" And I said, "No." Uh, I am not working. I didn't have the bandwidth. I'm not working with individual clients at this time. And he kept pushing and pushing, and so he scheduled a call. And just in the course of that conversation, there was something there that said, "Pay attention." So I said, "Yes, we'll take you on a probationary basis and see what happens." And the rest, as they would say, is history. The book came out of that. The Center for Infinite Riches came out of that. So I'm just very honored to have been able to, shepherd such that I did this journey and to write the foreword to the book.
Amazing. I was a big Bob Proctor fan. I used to love that meditation he has. I am so happy and
Oh,
grateful the money comes to me. That
yes,
one that was
yes.
there's like
Yeah,
hour versions of it, 2 hours and 8 hours on YouTube. It's really good.
yeah. Bob was one of my dearest friends.
Oh, amazing. So tell us what inspired you to follow this path, Pushkar. What was what's your story?
Oh well, it's a 15-year story, a 15-year journey, Venus. I'll try keeping in 3 or 4 minutes. And
Mhm.
I was one of those who grew up with a very textbook success definition. I went to the LSE, London School of Economics. I went to Cambridge. I worked in banking, and these were things I wanted to do as I was growing up as a child. But as I started getting into my early 30s and the global financial crisis unfolded, things started to change within me. I started going back to examine what is life all about. What is that foolproof formula for success? What is success in the first place? And I started listening a little bit more to my heart than I did earlier. And then this hobby or this interest in trying to understand what is life and how does it unfold went from a grew elevated from a hobby to an interest to a passion to an obsession. And by the time I got to the year 2015, which was 7 8 years into the journey, I'd got through about 250 300 books.
Wow.
I'd been to 15 20 immersive seminars, workshops, Messrs. Canfield, Proctor, Dyer, the usual suspects. And I knew a little bit more, but the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know. And then, as Grandmaster B Square mentioned in that seminar, we met, and I poured my heart out. I said, "I'm on this quest, and I want to know more, and I just know that you meant to be my teacher." And we had a bunch of synchronicities. My date of birth is 21st October. If you remember Bob's story, Ray Sanford gave him Think and Grow Rich 21st October 61. I'm 21st October 76. They're one of the synchronicities, and God knows how many more happened. And he kindly, Grandmaster B Square, kindly agreed to mentor me and teach me. And he said, "Look, I don't have a program. We'll just have to go old school, like the Greek, Indian days of thousands of years ago. And I said, fine, I love that. So that got added to the arsenal. By the time we got to COVID, Venus, I'd got through some 500 books, 30 odd seminars, 4 or 5 years with him. And that whole quest within me, rather than looking for that foolproof formula out there, metamorphosed or transformed into looking in here that what is the purpose of life? What is my purpose? What is your purpose? What is everyone's purpose? Why are we here? Why do we do what we do? And how do we elevate ourselves and everyone else? And that took me to wanting to share all that I'd learned. As Grandmaster B Square and I chatted a bit, we felt the best way to get the story out there is to write a book. So that journey started in 2022 and obviously went through lots of writing, editing, rewriting, re-editing. But the whole mission or purpose there was, as I found my own, is that, wow, it took me 15 years to become the person I was meant to be, to manifest my infinite riches. Let's get out there and share what we have with people across the world so they can do it in 15 months or quicker, because everything I learned and I did was spent down in a structured, organized manner. So anyone who reads it or studies the material can manifest theirs a lot quicker. And the book was born.
So you're looking for some kind of meanings that went beyond just working and earning money. Would that be true? Is that
Oh, absolutely. It was the meaning of life, the purpose of life. And a lot of what the book talks about comes and draws back to the word purpose. And then we put together money, purpose, define riches, define infinite riches, build models in a way that people understand. Lots of real life examples out there. And that's how the story flows and progresses.
Amazing. So I have the book here, Manifest Your Infinite Riches, and I'm about to finish it. So it's been I have a whole shelf of money energy books. So just before we got online, we mentioned that this is not just money. So when you say riches, how can you define riches?
Yeah, I do have an interesting definition of riches, but this is one that Grandmaster and I have chatted about quite a bit. So I'm going to request him to start this with how he sees it, then I'll come in with mine and let's see how our viewers, listeners write the all-round perspective. Is that all right, Venus?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Go
Excellent.
ahead.
Thank you.
When we think of riches, most people think of material wealth, riches in material form. There's riches in relationships. There's riches in connection, the intimacy of bonding. All of that comes together. And you can think of riches in the context of matter. And what matter is, it's energy shaped by the dynamic movement of consciousness. That's what matter is. It's energy that is shaped by the dynamic movement of consciousness. It's the localized, differentiated expression of consciousness in motion. And it takes its form in different ways. Where this moves to is it's an abundant, infinitely abundant universe. Consciousness is the first cause. Max Planck, who was the father of quantum physics, famously said, we can get behind everything, but we can't get behind consciousness. And consciousness is the expression that we see in our lives. So when we're looking at riches, riches aren't out there. Riches start in here. So, how I define myself basically ends up being my definition of what we could metaphorically call God. Okay? So when I'm defining me, I'm defining God, and God projects out into the universe, out into my experience of reality, what it is that I have access to. We mentioned Bob Proctor. I mean, I remember a quote from Bob years ago. We were doing a program on wealth. And one of the students said, where am I going to get the money? And Bob just kind of looked at him and says, well, wherever it is.
Great answer.
And it is. It is a factual statement. It's an abundant universe. Money is everywhere. Money is simply energy in a specific form. It's a creative energy. And this is true for all riches. And we talk about this in the book. Riches, not just monetarily, but riches in every aspect of my life. It's an infinite storehouse that I have access to when I begin to work with consciousness.
So would you say it's about starting with a feeling inside.
Feeling is the catalyst. It's
Mm,
manifestations. If we could go into the
mm,
law of attraction, sort of a conversation here. The law of attraction is a secondary law. It's rooted in the law of vibration. Everything vibrates. Matter vibrates. All matter is a slowed down uh, form of energy. It's slowed down to the vibrationally slowed down to the point where we can actually perceive it.
mm,
Yeah. This screen that we're working through, the chair that I'm sitting in, it's vibrating. I mean, I
mm,
don't feel it vibrating, but it is. So to the question about it, feeling is the catalytic mechanism that human beings use to create and manifest. How it feels is where I end up, you know, what I end up, manifesting in life. And there's a notion of fidelity that comes into play here. Yeah, high fidelity as
mm,
opposed to just kind of broad spectrum. You want to
mm.
be able to, really focus the energy from an energetic perspective, and it's that focused, energetic experience that we, begin to feel our way into and through, and then it manifests itself externally.
Would you like to add
And
anything, Pushkar?
I'll chip in there, Venus, just
Mm,
what I was saying earlier around the definition of riches. Now, that's a fascinating perspective Grandmaster B Square gives there. And I just want you to give you the other one that I'd mentioned earlier. That so we start the book with these words, and that's where this whole concept of riches came from. That yes, you are infinitely rich. You are infinitely rich because you are you.
mm,
Right now, this is a phenomenal sentence, not because I crafted it, because it reinforces Venus, which is the core truth.
mm,
Underlying the term used earlier was human consciousness or humanity. And that is that every human being is born infinitely rich. Every human being.
mm,
This process called living, the
mm.
way we see it today across the 7.5, 8 billion people across the planet, across most of them, takes us away from this truth.
Yeah.
This
Mm,
book and all the conversation we're having and all the material we have brings people right back there through
okay.
all that is in there and the fascinating four pillar foundation, which we can go into when you like. But put all of this together, the core purpose there is to bring people back to that core truth and get them to go within. And then the process of manifesting those infinite riches, those riches which come from your absolute core, from your purest self, deep down in there, start to get identified, thrive, grow, and come out or manifest.
Perfect. So a lot of people who are attracted to these types of books, especially a title like Manifest Your Infinite Riches, sometimes they're coming from a place of struggle or limiting beliefs, or they're looking, it's a lack kind of mentality. How can those people really get out of the fear mode and start feeling this? Because I think it's a bit of a process. Because I mean, you were talking about feelings before, because sometimes these feelings are blocks and fears. You know, it happened to me about a couple of years ago. I lost a massive contract and I listened to affirmations all day to try and get back onto that big thing. But I was just in this paranoid state. And it just took me several months to get back to that abundant state of expecting good things to happen. So, what would you say to those people? Because I think a lot of the self help world, a lot of people just stay in that kind of hamster wheel of not really evolving. How can you actually progress through these books?
Yeah, but let's. I think this is one which we both going to answer this together. But let's take it in turns because this is really the heart of people becoming abundant. Because to become abundant, you got to manifest certain things, and
Mm.
that's where we go back to blocks and feelings and things. Would you like to kick it off, Grandmaster B Square? Should I?
Mm.
No,
How should we
I'll
do
jump
this?
into this. Um, this kind of goes to the question you had earlier, Venus, about feeling.
Mm.
Fear is a base emotion, and it
Mm.
has all kinds of consequences to it. It's a very low vibrational state. So when people are working with affirmations, and this seems to be typical of many people that actually work with affirmations in this context, they'll put them up on the refrigerator door and they'll see them but there's no feeling attached to them. The
Mm.
feeling is overridden by the experience of lack, yeah,
Mm.
in the moment. So one way to think about this is it's a mindset issue.
Mm.
There's three basic mindsets that people operate with in the universe, in the world. There's not enough, there's
Mm,
just enough, there's more than enough.
mhm,
And these are literal mindsets. If I'm operating from there's not enough, it's a contractive energy, it's fear-based, it's organized out of scarcity. If I lose that big contract, oh my God, I'm going to die.
mm,
Or yeah, and it's coming from there's not enough. And I look around and I see my bank account and it's reinforcing there's not enough. That's a mindset, and we get into a loop around that. One way to begin to move out of that is to shift a mindset so that you begin to really work from there's just enough. Okay.
mm,
And this is a graduation. There's just enough. Just enough implies I've got, the basics are handled. The
mm,
basic, so it allows me to breathe a little bit.
mm,
And there's a feeling shift. There's the tonality shift in the feeling structure in the body.
mm,
That isn't it, and it's that, feelings are a magnet for experience. Then the third mindset here has to do with it's an abundant universe. There's more than enough. There's more than enough. I may not have something right now, but there's more than enough. This is Bob's point, when I mentioned it earlier. Where's the money coming from? Well, if I've got a mindset of there's more than enough, money's going to come from wherever it's at right now. It's just going to come.
mm,
And the way that, I've worked with Pushkar on this, when we were early starting out, because he had some goals and objectives. And the point I kept coming back to was it's already happened. You just haven't arrived yet. It's
mm,
already happened. You just haven't arrived. And that gives permission, first of all, for the brain to kind of go, whoa, okay, it's already happened. Because everything that's been invented or ever will be invented has been invented twice, first as an idea and then in physical
mm.
form. It's already there. So now I just need to get myself set up so that
You can receive.
vibrationally,
Mm,
I'm in coherence with
mm,
that which I say I desire. And that's why I go back to the way I define myself basically ends up being the way I define God.
mm,
However God translates into your own philosophy of life, whether it's universe or whatever it might be. And I'm not talking about this in a religious sense. I'm talking about it in the orgasmic creative sense.
mm.
Yeah, there's just, it's birthed
Absolutely.
coming from that position.
And
Love
if
that.
you take it,
Mm,
Venus, if let's take that to a further level. So we're talking feelings, yeah. Now,
mm,
feelings. If we look at the link between the feeling and manifestation, so the feeling comes at the end of the day that leads to manifestation, the subconscious mind.
mm,
The feeling that's nestled in the subconscious mind directly results in a certain experience, which is called a manifestation experience. The feeling we think, right? And let's stay with me a few seconds. The feeling we think we are feeling is the conscious mind in action. What is down there in the subconscious, we don't know. But the manifestation result we have is what is there in the subconscious. That feeling, you could call it a pattern, you could call it a program. We're talking to Bob, he used to call it a paradigm, give it whatever word you like. That which is in there is what reflects out there. And that's why the great Kybalion you would have heard of, as within, so without, as above, so below, in here, out there. So the trick that Napoleon Hill we mentioned earlier, talked donkeys of years ago, you got to trick the subconscious mind, for want of a better word. You got to change the feeling in there. And
mm,
we talked about feeling earlier. As a great, great man, Neville Goddard. There's the feeling gets the blessing. Right? It's that feeling in there. And earlier, I think Grandmaster B Square touched upon law of attraction. He said law of vibration is primary because you attract what you vibrate at. What you vibrate at is the vibrational frequency in the subconscious for whatever you are there to manifest. So, what anybody out there, coming back to where the conversation started three of us a few minutes ago, is those who got different kinds of blocks. They got to appreciate those blocks have come over years or decades. They
mm,
haven't come overnight. Likewise, what you need to change in there also needs repetitive work and repetition through different means. You could call it imagination, visualization, vision boards, affirmations, but it's got to generate that feeling. And that's the foundation of experiences in life for bringing manifestation out there.
Amazing. You mentioned vision boards a lot in your book. Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did, and they do work for me.
Mm.
They very much do. And this was in the early days. I'd made a vision board. And that's the beauty of this thing and the irony that when we look at it, we first have difficulty accepting it to ourselves in a conscious way. So I'd made a vision board in the very early days, and I could, I said, no, is that me? No, no. And then after about a week, I took it to my wife and she said, right, okay. And then I took it to my dear Grandmaster B Square. I said, look at this. What do you think of it? Not bad. Okay. When did you make it? It's been a week, 10 days. And I'm kind of getting comfortable with the idea. But that is where it is. We've got to first convince ourselves consciously, then subconsciously. And then when you're convinced yourself, it doesn't matter what the world thinks because you're suddenly not bothered about what's going on out there. Do you remember Grandmaster B Square, that first vision board and that sheepish look I had in my face?
Yep.
It happens to all of us, Venus.
Mm.
We've today, it's I'm a different person, God goodness me, after all of these years. But everything we do, all that I see in this life today, somewhere I saw it within me earlier. I used to tell her, I said, look, we're in this mission to uplift 4 million people. It's got to happen by my 50th. Then we got to get to 100 by your 80th. We got to do this. We got to go around the world. And then, I mean, so much happened that so many people who helped us in the journey. Jack Canfield helped us immensely.
Mm.
I mean, he'd known Grandmaster a long time. He helped me with the initial introduction. I went down to today is his retirement day, by the way. It's the last day he's working before he retires. He came literally out of nowhere and played such an important part in spreading the message. So many other people did, but it all just happened because there was a vibrational match.
Mm.
There was a frequency match within the subconscious. Sorry, I don't know if that
No,
reinforced the point or I went off on a tangent, but
no,
back
it's
to
all
you.
good. So, but I've always found that a lot of people don't really know what they want. So let's say, because I mean, making a vision board, you have to get clarity on what you're actually going for. Because people are complaining about what they don't have, how their
Mhm.
life is. But to get to that clarity of knowing what you want, because also there's another nuance of what you want might not be good for you, or it might not be what you need. So how can we get to that wish list? How can you know you've got the right wishes?
Right.
The
This is again a
catalytic
question for
question
two
for
of
that.
us. Grandmaster B Square, please. First you. I'll come in after that.
I truly think that the catalytic question for that is not so much what do I want, because people can actually,
Mm,
and often they'll answer it in the context that you're referencing, Venus, about what I don't want. Oh, I
mm,
don't want to have a deficit in my bank account. Well, what do you want? All of these things, the purpose of a goal is
mm,
not understood particularly well in our world today. Most people think that the purpose of a goal is to get something.
mm,
That's not the purpose of a true goal. The purpose of a true goal is to grow.
mm,
If my goal isn't growing me, it becomes eh. Yeah, I mean, and really, I mean, I love the title of this show for that reason, because what we're looking at is creation of self. You know,
mm,
the soul wants to fully express itself in all of
mm,
its richness. It can't do that with tiny goals. So when
Interesting.
people, yes,
Mhm. Big, because
it
every
ends up
big
becoming an
goals.
iteration of what I had yesterday. I'm going to get
Okay.
a 10% increase. Well,
Mm,
okay, I know how to do, yeah, it's boring. So there's no juice, there's no aliveness, there's no fire, there's no vigor, there's no, you fill in the blank. So if we can begin to understand that the purpose of a goal is to grow, I want to be able to set goals that actually scare me a little bit. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I just know that inside I can't not have this. It's
mm,
so important to me. So the real question, and this is the catalytic question, is I want to have this for the sake of what?
mm,
For the sake of what? What does it allow me to have, do, or be that I wouldn't get to have, do, or be if I didn't move in this direction?
mm,
That question of for the sake of what? Why, what's so bloody important about this? that you can't sleep at night. You've got to get up and start moving. That's You have this compulsion, this felt desire to move, to grow, to express, to expand. That's when life gets juicy.
Hmm. I
And
love that.
that's Venus building on that foundation. There's a fascinating, a powerful concept here. We devote a whole chapter, and there's a whole program beyond the book on this concept of dharma. Right? Dharma is
Mm.
often in a Western context, people think of it as religion. No, no, no. It's got nothing to do with religion. Right? Nothing at all. It is your unique purpose in life,
Mm.
your biggest gift, your infinite riches,
Mm.
a perpetual, never-ending orgasm for you and
Mm.
everyone you interact with. It
Mm.
literally is that. We were talking about your podcast and the title, and we felt, the work we've done really ties in with the title. Because what we're saying is when you're living your dharma, your purpose, you're living the calling of your soul. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
Your soul is a fragment of universal spirit. Call it force if you're a Star Wars fan, call it God, call it what you like. It is a fragment of a force much bigger than all of us. So when you're listening to the calling of your soul, you're listening to the voice of that force out there, in here. And when you manifest that purpose, when you live that dharma, in a way, you're doing God's work.
Mm.
And when you're doing God's work, the money chases you. You
Mm.
don't think about the money. You don't talk about the money. It's a powerful concept, the impression of increase. A chap called Wallace Wattle, Science of Getting Rich. The rumor goes that Rhonda Bryn wrote The Secret. That's the book that got her all ignited. And he talks about the impression of increase. Everyone you touch, leave them better off than where they were, with the genuine impression of increase. And when you are living your dharma, the point Grandmaster made earlier about waking up in the morning, you are absorbed by a purpose so much bigger than you that concept of tiredness goes away. And I don't have the book with me, but I think it's page 36 or somewhere. There's Patanjali, thought of the father of yoga 3,000 to 4,000 years
Mm.
ago. And he talked about that when you're living a dharma, a purpose, dormant forces within you come alive. You become a person far bigger than you ever imagined yourself to be. You do work much more than you've ever done. And I was besotted with these words, and I've literally been through that over the years. And I tell people often, I said this to Jack when he interviewed me, and he loved it too. That Chariots of Fire, if you're familiar with the 1981 film, Eric Liddell is doing the end race. The voice in his mind comes out in the background, which says that he says, God made me fast. God made me for a purpose. And when I run, I feel God's pleasure. And he
Wow.
runs beyond every other athlete because he's not driven by the ego. Wayne
Mm.
Dyer used to say, ego is edging God out. He's not driven by the ego. He's driven by something much bigger. So he's not competing with anybody else. He's just got to get there because that's part of his purpose.
Mm. I
Right?
love that.
And that takes over your life. And that's the power of dharma, purpose. So what I think between what the two of us have said, if our viewers take that away and link it with this concept of purpose, dharma, aliveness, consciousness, soul, as it's explained in the book, I think it'll really elevate the way you look at life and yourself and how humanity comes together.
Yeah, some word that's been a kind of a buzzword for me lately in my life is aliveness. You just said it now. So I've been looking for aliveness in many sources, and that's from. And now I've actually got this quote here on my desk: "Go where you feel the most alive." That's great.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to kind of think about making the wish list. But just going back to Napoleon Hill, we've mentioned that's the book that changed my life, Think and Grow Rich. And
Mhm.
I've been a sexpert for many years. I've been focused on female pleasure. That's been my kind of area of expertise. But in 2018, so 2 years after your awakening, I was in a situation where I had no pillows. I was living in a tiny apartment, no lift. I was living in Barcelona, by the beach here in Barcelona, always cold, always hungry. And I thought, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong here. Then I started looking for self-help, and I found Think and Grow Rich. And it was like, wow. And I found the chapter, The Mystery of Sex Transmutation, and that
Yeah.
completely changed my life, because what I love about that is it's not just about the sexual energy at the beginning, but the latter part of that chapter is about relationships, because we're talking about richness here, and how the relationships are the foundation of happiness and satisfaction of life. You know, it's not how much money is in your bank account. So could you tell us anything about that, about how, relationships, friendships, family, partnerships can,
Who goes
yeah,
first? My favorite question.
yeah. Oh,
Grandmaster
it's
B
your favorite
square
question.
A.
That's good.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
aligned, obviously, tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a chancellor at the Napoleon Hill Institute.
Oh, are
So
you? Oh my God. I'm a big
yeah.
fan. I read it every year.
Yeah. That, we could, that's a rabbit hole we could go down, but I'll come back to the question here.
Hmm.
Everything is relationship.
Hmm.
There is, yeah. If I'm alive, relationships inform who I am.
Mm.
It's that simple. I'm a function of the relational dynamics in my world. And most people, don't deliberately, intentionally create high quality relationships. They just take what they're given.
Mm.
It just seems to kind of organically emerge. When we're looking at highly successful people that are, looking to be highly successful in their life, however they define that word success. And again, riches gets to be, part of that, not just monetarily, but it's oftentimes the pursuit of a worthy ideal. That's, in large part what a relational definition comes into play with it. I have a relationship with my life. I have a relationship with my dreams. Most people, to your point earlier, don't know what they want. So that relational quality is very poor. They don't have a high quality relationship with their dreams in a way that it informs who they are. At its core, consciousness, awareness isn't inert. It's not passive. It's inherently creative. And it gets creative when it's bumped up against something else. There's a relational quality to it. When it's agitated and stimulated, it gives rise to vibration and frequency and then form. This is where aliveness comes into play here. The physical world isn't separate from awareness. The physical world is the most tangible expression of awareness. So most people aren't aware of where they're paying attention. This is the relational quality. Squirrel. I mean, all of a sudden their attention gets hijacked.
Mm.
They've got a relationship with something over there that is drawing their energy from what they said that they wanted to have. That's something else. That there's a relational quality to that something else. And this goes to the subconscious that Pushkar was speaking about earlier. 95%, roughly 95% study after study, supports this. 95% of people's behavior by the time they're about 30 years of age are directed by their subconscious mind. And subconscious means out of awareness, literally out of awareness. So we will set an objective, consciously set an objective. But the relationship I have with my subconscious is so compelling, so strong, and not recognized well, I end up behaving in ways that are antithetical to getting what it is that I said that I wanted. I need to develop a relationship with my subconscious, not just with the people in my life, not just with this, the area that I live in. A good example of this, just relational. Um, my office, I designed my office for a very specific reason. I designed it in a very specific way. And there's a notion in the design world that's called ontological design.
Mm.
You design an environment that designs you in return.
Mm.
And there's an intentionality behind that. I have a relationship with my office. The doors into my office are 180 years old. I brought them over from Europe, sized them, put them in. So when I walk into my office, there's this opening that comes in. It's an invitation into a place that has a very specific purpose. It looks out onto the ocean.
Wow.
And it's designed specifically for creativity. It's designed specifically for peacefulness. It designs me in return. This environment designs me in return. I have a relational
Mm.
quality to this office. There's a relational quality that reinforces who I say I want to be.
Mm.
So when we start thinking of relationships, we want to expand the definition of what we mean by that. It's not just, my relationship with you.
Mm.
I want to take a look at my relationship with anything and everything that I have in my life because it's all a projection of who I am.
Oh, wow.
Excellent. Well,
Uh-huh.
now the second part of that. The chapter you referred to, Venus, I remember that. And I remember it's been a few years since I
Mm,
went back to that book. But Napoleon Hill talked about why often he referred more to men, because in those days, the success comes well after the age of 40, often even 50, because the sexual energy seems to mature or transmute into wider creative energy with time and age. And then he links it back to this whole idea of relationships and going from there. And all I want to add to that is, Venus, that people who have a good or a happy relationship or at peace with themselves are often the people who are most at peace with others.
mm,
Often, if you're working in an office, sector, industry, anywhere, it's the same chirpy ones who generally happy as they are, happy for no reason,
mm,
and they don't get into tiffs or acerbicity, for want of a better word, with others. And the grumpy lot generally are grumpy about anything and everything, and it's not that mechanical, and it could be a generally happy person who's having a bad day,
mm,
and you keep getting that grumpiness out on everyone else. And it's one of my favorite quotations, and between us, amongst us, we've talked a bit of Bob, and it's the quotation I use when we start the last, not in the last chapter, the conclusion, and I absolutely love it. And I think it shows how we can sort out our relationship with ourselves. It's my relationship with me. So Bob, as in Bob, when he was a young fellow, one of his mentors, a chap called Leland van der Waal, and is his quotations, which he'd said over the years. I think Grandmaster knows what I'm coming up with. It goes something along these lines. If I want to be free, I got to be me. Not the me you think I should be, not the me my wife thinks I should be, not the me my neighbor thinks I should be. If I want to be free, I want to be me.
mm.
I better know who me is.
Okay. I feel very privileged and grateful to have this opportunity with two experts. I'm going to ask you some advice. I'm going to ask for some advice. Okay. I'm really intrigued about the answer. So I recently went to the US because all my audience is US based. I'm living in Barcelona. I'm British, but this culture of Barcelona is very relaxed, as you probably know if you know anything about Barcelona. And I think you just mentioned something about environment, and that just triggered some of my thought processes. So I think sometimes we are, products of our environment. That could be people, it can be places. And I've just felt like I needed to go to the US just to absorb the energy and the hustle culture. I just needed that bigger vision. So I've just come back from New York, Miami, and LA, and it was just like, wow, I was just thinking so big. Then I come back, and I just one of my contracts is not being renewed, so I'm in this space now of. But if I'm really honest, it wasn't a contract that had my five values, which are written down here, which are authenticity, freedom, achievement, success, love, affection, and health. And I was just doing it for the money. It was kind of easy money. So now I'm in this stage of like, okay, how do I start building something that's more aligned with my values and get infinite riches? That's the question.
My teacher goes first, as always.
You want to?
Well, I think you've already begun the process, Venus. I truly do. It's, back, the definition of values,
Mhm,
when you begin to define those and really begin to, take a look at, for the sake of what is this important to me?
mm,
For the sake of what is this value important? The true power of values is that they guide behavior, they inform
mm,
decision making. So to the point of this contract that's going away, yeah, I said yes to it because it was easy money. Okay, as
mm.
an example. From a values perspective, it conflicted with one or more of your
All of them.
your core values, or with all of them.
Maybe just the money
Okay.
one.
See, yeah. So you're think of this in terms of cost and investment.
Mm,
Where I'm going to with this is the nature of time. Time is the only non-renewable asset we have access to. We can't go to the bank and get more time. So I
mm,
want to be very discreet and discriminating about how I'm investing my time
mm.
as opposed to spending my time.
Oh, it's a
Very
big
big distinction
distinction.
between those. Spending my time, there's not a ROI, there's not a return on that spend necessarily. It may be a momentary Well, that was nice. But if I'm investing my time in, embedded in the word investment is an implicit return that is going to be larger than what was outlaid.
Mm,
It'll come back in a different form, because it's energy being transmuted. But you're looking at, how am I investing? What's the investment? And you use your values as a guide to that.
mm. I'm going to ask ChatGPT as well to give me a plan of like what I'm going to do yeah, with the values and all the things that I'm good at as well to try and make a new kind of
Hmm.
strategy. Do you have anything to add, Pushkar?
Take it beyond Venus, and I'll give you my own example, which will resonate very much with when you talked about that contract. And someone had mentioned to me, is look, there's a fascinating concept you've come up with, and I won't mention the country or the name, but there's this certain company in this country, and I think it could be a pretty lucrative assignment for you. What do you think? And I said, look, it doesn't resonate with my heart. The vision in my heart, which I think dear grandmasters heard a million times, is to go out there and wake up people,
Mm,
wake people up so that they're on the journey to become the person they're always meant to be, to manifest the infinite riches. Now, when I do that, it's 4 million by now, 100 million by then. If I'm giving them something invaluable,
mm,
infinite, and I get $1 or two back a person, whether I end up with 200 million, 10 million, 5 million, 500 million, it doesn't matter
mm,
because that is not what I'm focusing on.
mm,
And the first time I wrote this down in the book, synchronously, if there's such
mm,
a word, coincidentally, I came across for the first time Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And
Hmm.
he says exactly the same thing in the introduction. Pick up and you'll see the introduction. He makes exactly the same point. And I tears in my eyes. And that is one thing I have never gone away from.
mm,
Right? If this is great, okay, but why am I doing this? It'll give you $100,000 or 2 hours of work. So I don't know. I don't mind the 100,000 for 2 hours, but is it energetically, fundamentally aligned with that dharma I have for my life, that mission that translates into the vision? And if it's not, it doesn't matter what the funds are. I'm not going to do it. So money is not the driver. I absolutely love money. I love it to come from all places and all shapes and sizes. As much as comes is great, but that is not the driver. And that's what we start the book with in chapter 1 with Steve Jobs' quotation saying exactly the same thing. And I hope that resonates a bit with the, I won't say dilemma, but the introspection you were doing.
yeah, I think it's just I'm in that place of like not trying to go into fear mode and just 'cause still think, oh yeah, I'm gonna have some more transatlantic trips soon because I have a lot of media popping up now. So I'm trying to think, yeah, I've got to keep thinking big because I think environment is a big factor. So tell us about the center of infinite riches. What is the center of infinite riches?
Well, I say the Center for Infinite Riches is a movement.
Okay.
It's um, it's not a brick and mortar thing. It's a
Mm,
movement. It's a feeling which is out
mm,
there to uplift humanity, human consciousness. That's
mm,
all. There is nothing more to it. But it goes beyond the book.
mm,
It goes into on our website. There are programs which we've created between us, Grandmaster B Square and I. There's a 6 Statutes of Money. That's
mm,
our flagship program. There's a program on Dharma. There's a program on vision boards, affirmations, and one called the JJ Method. JJ is a fascinating man. I met thanks to Jack Canfield, and I told Grandmaster B Square all about it, and we had a good laugh. And JJ is an important part of my life today. But beyond that, there's a good amount of free content, Venus. The
oh,
videos that
great.
we've shot on different topics. There's one of my favorites is There Is No Plan B, the story of Tariq bin Ziyad. One of Grandmaster's favorites, at least I think it's his favorites, and it's one of mine too, is where he talks about inspiration versus motivation. There's some pretty powerful content there which one doesn't have to pay for, but it really helps people wake up, rise, become who they're meant to be. And the programs are pretty affordable as well. We price them in a way that the flagship is, I think, $18 or something, and it starts from 6 or 7. So the whole idea is to make it accessible to people across the world through the center, which has in terms of people a presence in every continent, and it's we out there to wake people up and become who they're always meant to be. Would you like to add anything, Grandmaster B Square?
Mm.
I think you're good.
Okay. A couple of quick questions for you. I ask everyone on this podcast. What is the book that changed your life?
Who's going first, as always?
Hmm. Blaine.
I'll go first with this one. I think probably the one that I would say changed my life, and it wasn't Think and Grow Rich.
Oh,
It was Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein, science fiction book back in the 1960s. Uh, and it was the first. I love science fiction. I'll just kind of open with that because science fiction is usually good. Science fiction is about possibilities.
mm,
And Stranger in a Strange Land was about the possibility, what could humankind be if a human tapped into latent possibilities, latent ways of being that are not typically accessed. And I remember reading that and just literally having, shivers. It's kind of like, wow, this is so cool because I knew it was possible. And fast forward to today, I mean, literally about 60, 70 years later, more than that, um, we've got biohacking going on that is beginning to actually fulfill the promise that was
mm.
embedded in that book, Stranger in a Strange Land.
Wow. I'm a big fan of Brian Johnson. I just love him.
Oh, Brian, yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. And you,
Mine is
Pushkar?
a lot more basic, not
Mm,
science fiction, basic in the sense from this field of personal development.
mm,
It's the first book I really read and went into, and it's called "Bring Out the Magic in Your Mind." Al
mm,
Quran. He was an English magician called Edward Doe. Most people who were born in the 40s or 50s, especially in the UK and possibly the US, know of him. Otherwise, people don't. It went out of print for a long time, and it's back in circulation. I got my hands on a seventh, eighth, 10th hand copy, early 2000s. With Venus, it talked about wonderful things. It talked about the magic of everything, the magic
mm.
of music, the magic of flowers, the magic of X, Y, Z. And I fell in love with this idea of personal development with that book. And one of the quotations there, which I've never forgotten, he says that when you start your day every morning, bless your money to
Mm.
go out and help everyone it touches.
Amazing.
Give food to those who need it. Give more money to those who need it. Give clothes to those who give blessings to those who need it. Let it go back and come back to you multiple fold, and it goes out again, and the cycle continues. So
Mm.
that was the one for me. Yes.
That reminds me of Ken Honda, the
Ken,
arigato in with Happy
happy
Money.
money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
happy
got a whole
money.
thing of money books here. I love it.
Yeah.
He's a good friend
Ken's
of
a
yours,
very
isn't
close
he?
friend,
Oh
very dear friend
wow,
of mine.
I love his videos. He's just so kind of simple but sophisticated at the same time. It's a big,
Yeah.
it's great. So
Yeah,
what
we've
about a
done work
quote that you
together
live
before.
by? A quote that you live by?
It's already happened. I just haven't arrived yet.
Okay, we love that.
Yes, you're infinitely rich. You're infinitely rich because you are you.
Okay, we love that. Okay, well, thank you. So where can people find you?
PushkarAnandsWorld.com,
Mm.
where there's all about the center, me, Grandmaster's role in my life, and then he has his own practice, which I'll let him tell you about.
The simple one is blainebartlett.com. Uh, that's my personal website. I've got a company. It's got another website, but you can track to there from blainebartlett.com.
And you
If you
have
get to
programs on
Pushkar
there?
Anand's world, sorry,
Oh
sorry,
yeah,
Vinny,
got
sorry.
there's programs, a number of different things, except that except free books. A couple of I've written 5 books. A
Uh-huh.
couple of the books are available on e-formats,
Amazing.
and then if you just do the at Blaine Bartlett, you'll see my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my TikTok, my yeah, I'm everywhere.
Everything.
I'm
Okay,
everywhere.
we're looking you up. Perfect.
Sorry, I was just saying that there's a good amount of information about him as well on the website.
The website.
And the
Mhm.
footer everywhere, we have all social media handles there. So it's rare if you come to mine, you don't find him, and then you have his independently as well.
Yes.
Amazing. Love this. Well, thank you so
So
much for
Center
joining us
for
on the
Infinite
orgasmic.
Riches.
So thank you for joining us on the orgasmic lifestyle. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, it's been a pleasure coming, and we haven't had a podcast with a wonderful name like this, and I'm so glad we came. and loved it absolutely. Grateful. Thank you so much.
And
Thank
that
you.
was not, that pun was unintended, Pushkar. So thank
Oh
you.
yeah. By the way, just this won't be in the video. Oh, we'll stop the thing like that. But this is my book that I've just released, Orgasmic Manifestation. So
Oh,
this is
okay.
all inspired by the sex transmutation thing, and my story of having no pillows. Now I have 5 pillows. That's total abundance.
Beautiful.
So yeah, this has just come out, and I've got a lot of press in the. I had a big publisher in Spain publish it, and now it's in English. I self-published in English, and now it's kind of getting doing a lot of press for it. So it's
Excellent.
yeah, it's very similar, but we're all about the
Congratulations.
orgasms. It's all about that magical moment.
Yep. Peak experience.
Exactly, and it's actually 88 years after Think and Grow Rich. Don't know if that's a strange
Wow.
coincidence, but yeah,
Good. Yeah, synchronicity.
yeah, absolutely. Amazing. And also, just to
Excellent.
let you know, this will come out in a couple of months because I've got so much content. We have a lunar schedule for like full moon, new moons, and all that. And then I do a section called the book I'm reading now. So I'll do a book review of your book before the interview comes out, so it kind of advertises
Excellent.